Right now, somewhere on your phone, there's an app that quietly controls every other app you own. And you've probably never opened its settings even once. It's not a game. It's not social media. It's the Google Play Store itself, and if it's outdated, it can silently break the very apps you rely on every single day, from your banking app to your messaging app to the camera you use to capture memories. Most people assume the Play Store updates itself automatically, in the background, without any input. And most of the time, that's true. But most of the time is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence because there are countless situations where the Play Store quietly falls behind, and you have absolutely no idea until something stops working. An app refuses to install. A download gets stuck at 1% forever. A security feature you were counting on simply isn't there. And when that happens, the fix isn't complicated, but almost nobody knows where to find it because Google buried this option in a place you'd never think to look unless someone showed you exactly where it is. Here's something that surprises a lot of people the first time they hear it. The Google Play Store does not have a traditional update button sitting out in the open like your other apps do. You won't find it on the Play Store's own listing page. You can't search for Google Play Store inside the Play Store and hit an update button because the system is designed to treat the store as a special self-managing piece of software rather than just another app in your library. That design choice makes sense from Google's perspective. They want this critical piece of infrastructure updating itself constantly without you needing to think about it. But it creates a real problem for anyone who actually needs to force an update, check their current version, or troubleshoot an issue that's clearly tied to an outdated store app. If you've ever gone looking for Update Play Store inside the Play Store app and came up empty, you're not missing something obvious. The option is real. It's just hidden 3 menus deep, tucked inside a settings page that 90% of users have never opened. So let's actually find it, because once you know where it lives, you'll be able to do this in under a minute anytime you need to. Open the Google Play Store app on your phone. At the top right corner of the screen, you'll see your profile picture or your account icon. Tap it. This opens a small menu, and inside that menu, you're looking for Settings. Tap that. Now, inside Settings, scroll down until you see a section labeled About. This is the part almost nobody explores because there's nothing flashy here, just version numbers, build information, and legal details that look boring at a glance. But this is exactly where the manual update trigger is hiding. AP About. And you'll see an option that says Update Play Store. Tap it, and the system immediately checks whether you're running the latest version. If you are, you'll get a simple confirmation message telling you that everything is current and you can tap Got it and move on with your day. But if you're not on the latest version, here's where it gets interesting. The moment that check finishes, the update begins downloading and installing automatically, usually within a couple of minutes, without asking you to confirm anything else or visit any other screen. Think about what that actually means for a second. You're not downloading the update from a web page. You're not sideloading an APK file from some random source. You're triggering Google's own internal update mechanism directly, the same one that normally runs silently in the background, except now you're forcing it to check immediately instead of waiting for its own schedule. That's the entire trick. There's no hack, no hidden settings menu buried in developer options, no need to root your device or install anything from outside the Play Store. It's a built-in feature that Google simply chose not to advertise, probably because the vast majority of users will never need it. But you're not the vast majority right now. You're someone who actually wants to understand and control what's running on your device, and that's exactly why this matters. Now, here's where most tutorials stop, and where this one keeps going, because knowing the steps is only half the picture. The real value is understanding why this sometimes fails, what to do when it does, and how to confirm your update actually worked instead of just hoping it did. Let's talk about what happens after you tap Update Play Store and nothing seems to happen. This trips up more people than you'd expect. You tap the button, you see a brief loading indicator, and then it just returns you to the same About screen with no clear confirmation either way. The first thing to check is your current Play Store version number, which is also displayed right there on that About page. Take note of that number before you try updating, then check it again afterward. If the number changed, your update went through, even if the app didn't throw up a big celebratory message announcing it. Google's Play Store updates are intentionally low drama by design. There's no splash screen, no what's new pop-up, nothing that interrupts your experience. It just quietly swaps itself out in the background and continues running like nothing happened. That's actually a deliberate design philosophy. Critical infrastructure apps are built to update invisibly because the moment an update process draws attention to itself, it becomes a moment where something can visibly go wrong in front of the user. And Google would rather you never notice the update happening at all unless you specifically asked. But what if the version number didn't change, and the app insists you're already up to date, even though you suspect something is wrong? This is where you need to dig one level deeper because there are actually a few different layers of being up to date that most people don't realize exist. The Play Store app itself is one layer, but underneath that sits Google Play Services, which is a separate background system that handles a huge amount of the actual functionality. Things like in-app purchases, push notifications, location services for apps, and security verification. Google Play Services updates through an entirely different channel than the Play Store app itself, and it's managed automatically through your device's system settings rather than through the store's own update button. If your Play Store says it's current but apps are still misbehaving, Google Play Services is very often the actual culprit. And that's a separate fix involving your device's app management settings rather than anything inside the Play Store itself. Here's where it gets worse though, and this is the part almost nobody explains properly. Even after a successful Play Store update, some devices, particularly older ones or devices from manufacturers that heavily customize Android, don't immediately apply the new version to active processes. The download completes, the installation finishes, but the version actually running in your device's memory is still the old one, until you force a restart of the app or the phone itself. This creates a frustrating scenario where you've done everything correctly, the update technically succeeded, and yet none of the problems you were trying to solve actually go away, because the old version is still technically the one operating behind the scenes. If you've updated the Play Store and things still feel broken, the next step isn't to panic or assume the update failed, it's to fully close the Play Store from your recent apps list, or in stubborn cases, restart your phone entirely. That single step resolves an enormous number of the update didn't work complaints that are actually just the update waiting for a clean restart to take full effect. Now let's go a layer deeper still, because there's a question lurking underneath all of this that most tutorials never address. Why would the Play Store fall behind in the first place if it's supposed to update itself automatically? The answer comes down to a handful of specific conditions, and understanding them changes how you think about this entire process. The first and most common reason is a poor or interrupted internet connection at exactly the wrong moment. Automatic background updates for system apps like the Play Store typically require a stable Wi-Fi connection, and they're scheduled to run during specific maintenance windows, often when your device is idle and charging. If your phone is constantly on the move, frequently switching between Wi-Fi networks, or rarely sits idle long enough for background tasks to complete, the automatic update process can get interrupted again and again without ever finishing. Over weeks or months, this compounds, and you end up several versions behind without ever realizing it because each individual interruption looked harmless in the moment. The second reason ties directly into storage space, and this one catches people off guard because it doesn't feel intuitive at first. When your device's internal storage gets close to full, Android's system processes, including background app updates, start getting deprioritized or blocked outright because the operating system needs breathing room to safely download and install new files without risking a failed write that could corrupt existing data. If your phone has been nagging you about storage for weeks and you've been ignoring it, there's a real chance that warning is connected to exactly the update problem you're now trying to solve. Clearing out unused apps, old downloads, or media you've already backed up elsewhere can directly unblock the Play Store's ability to update itself going forward. The third reason is something most people have never even considered. Certain enterprise-managed devices, school-issued tablets, or phones with parental control software installed have update permissions explicitly restricted by an administrator. If your device falls into this category, no amount of manually tapping Update Play Store will work because the system is intentionally blocking it at a level above what you can control from the settings menu. This isn't a bug or a mistake. It's a deliberate policy decision made by whoever manages that device, and the fix isn't technical at all. It's a conversation with whoever administers the device profile. And then there's a fourth reason that's becoming increasingly relevant as Android devices age: manufacturer-specific software skins. Companies like Samsung, Xiaomi, Oppo, and others build their own customized layers on top of standard Android. And these custom layers sometimes interfere with how background system updates behave, especially on devices that are several years old and no longer receiving frequent manufacturer support. If you're on a heavily skinned version of Android and the manual update method described earlier isn't behaving as expected, the underlying cause might be baked into how your specific manufacturer's software handles background processes, not anything you're doing wrong. Read that again, because this is the part that changes how you should think about this whole topic. This isn't really about how to click a button. It's about understanding an entire invisible system that's constantly working in the background of your phone, one that occasionally needs a manual nudge, and recognizing the handful of specific conditions that cause it to need that nudge in the first place. Once you understand those conditions, you stop being someone who panics when an app won't install, and you become someone who can diagnose the actual cause within seconds. Let's talk about why this even matters in the first place. Because update your Play Store can sound like a minor housekeeping task, but the consequences of skipping it stack up in ways that genuinely affect your daily experience with your phone. Security is the most important piece of this, and it's the one most people underestimate completely. The Play Store isn't just a storefront for downloading apps, it's also the frontline system responsible for scanning apps for malicious behavior before and after installation, verifying app signatures to make sure nothing has been tampered with, and enforcing increasingly strict privacy permission rules that Google rolls out over time. Every major version of the Play Store typically ships with updated detection patterns for newly discovered malware techniques. Running an outdated version means you're missing out on protections against threats that were specifically identified and patched after your version was released. It's the digital equivalent of running antivirus software with a virus definition file from months ago, technically still functioning, but blind to anything new that's emerged since. Compatibility is the second major consequence, and this is the one that actually annoys people enough to go looking for a fix in the first place. App developers build their apps against the latest Play Store APIs and submission requirements, and Google periodically requires developers to use newer features for things like app bundles, dynamic delivery, and updated permission models. If your Play Store version falls far enough behind, you can run into situations where certain apps simply refuse to download, throw cryptic error codes during installation, or get stuck indefinitely at a tiny percentage with no explanation. The app itself isn't broken, your internet connection isn't broken, it's your outdated Play Store failing to communicate properly with Google's servers using the protocol the newer app submission expects. And here's where it gets worse than most people realize. This problem compounds over time rather than staying static. The longer the Play Store goes without updating, the larger the eventual update package becomes. The more background processes get involved in catching it up, and the higher the chance that something in that larger, more complex update process hits a snag. A Play Store that's only slightly behind updates in seconds with zero friction. A Play Store that's badly behind sometimes needs multiple attempts, a storage cleanup, and a restart just to catch up properly. This is not chaos. This is exactly how incremental software systems are designed to behave. Small gaps close instantly, large gaps require more deliberate intervention. And the manual update method you just learned is precisely that deliberate intervention. Now, let's address something that comes up constantly in comment sections and forums, because if you've spent any time searching for this topic before finding this explanation, you've probably already seen people recommending far riskier alternatives. Some guides tell you to download an APK file of the Play Store directly from a third-party website and install it manually, bypassing Google's own update system entirely. Think about what that actually means before you consider doing it. You'd be taking a piece of software that has direct access to install, update, and manage every other app on your device, and downloading it from a source that isn't Google, with no way to verify it hasn't been modified, tampered with, or bundled with something malicious. The entire reason the Play Store update mechanism exists as a closed, Google-controlled system is precisely to prevent this exact scenario. A compromised version of the one app that has the deepest level of access across your entire device. The built-in manual method described earlier accomplishes the exact same goal, forcing an immediate update without ever requiring you to trust an unverified file from an unknown source. There is genuinely no good reason to take that risk when Google's own hidden manual trigger does the job safely. It's also worth addressing a related myth that circulates constantly. The idea that clearing the Play Store's cache and data will somehow force a deeper update or fix underlying problems the regular method can't touch. Clearing cache and data is a legitimate troubleshooting step, but it doesn't actually update anything. It resets the app to a blank slate, wipes your stored preferences and download history, and forces it to rebuild from scratch the next time you open it. Sometimes this incidentally resolves issues because a corrupted cache file was the real problem all along, and the fresh start happens to fix things. But it is not an update method, and treating it as one means you might wipe useful data for a fix that was never actually targeting the right problem. If your version number genuinely needs updating, the Update Play Store button under About is the correct direct path. Clearing cache and data is a different tool for a different job, and conflating the two is one of the most common mistakes floating around in casual troubleshooting advice online. Let's shift towards something a little more forward-looking now, because understanding how this system evolves matters just as much as knowing today's exact steps. Google has been steadily tightening how Play Store updates roll out, with a growing emphasis on staged rollouts rather than releasing new versions to every device simultaneously. This means that even among people who manually trigger an update on the exact same day, some will receive a newer build than others, because Google deliberately releases changes to small percentages of users first, watches for problems, and gradually expands the rollout if everything looks stable. This is precisely why two friends comparing Play Store version numbers on the same day might see slightly different results, even though both are technically up to date according to what their own device is currently eligible to receive. It's not a bug, and it's not something the manual update trigger can override. You can only ever receive what your specific device has currently been made eligible for in that staged rollout window. This staged approach exists for a very deliberate reason. The Play Store sits underneath an enormous, almost incomprehensible scale. Billions of active Android devices across wildly different manufacturers, regions, hardware generations, and software customizations. A single bad update pushed simultaneously to every one of those devices could create chaos at a scale that's difficult to even visualize. So instead, Google tests in smaller waves, watches crash reports and error rates climb or stay flat, and only proceeds to wider rollout once the data looks clean. Understanding this changes how you should react. If your manual update check keeps saying you're current even though you've heard newer features are out, it might genuinely be true that your device hasn't entered its rollout window yet, and there's no manual trick that can jump that queue. So where does this leave you, practically? The next time something on your phone feels slightly off, and you suspect it's tied to the Play Store falling behind, start with the basics. Open the Play Store, tap your profile icon in the top right, go into Settings, scroll to About, and tap Update Play Store. Note your version number before and after. If it changes, you're done. Close the app fully or restart your device to make sure the new version takes full effect. If it doesn't change and you're still having problems, check your storage space, check your internet connection stability, and consider whether your device might be enterprise managed or restricted in ways outside your direct control. And if none of that resolves it, remember that Google Play Services is a separate, deeper layer that sometimes needs its own attention through your device's app settings, distinct entirely from the Play Store app itself. What's genuinely uncertain and worth sitting with for a moment is how much longer manual intervention like this will even remain necessary. Google's automated update systems get more aggressive and more reliable with every passing year, narrowing the gap between automatic and instant a little further each time. There may come a point where the manual trigger becomes a relic, a setting that exists only for an edge case, so rare it barely matters anymore. But until that day arrives, this hidden setting remains one of the most quietly useful things you can know about your own device. A small, 3-tap sequence buried inside a menu nobody thinks to open, capable of resolving a surprising number of problems that look far more mysterious than they actually are. The next time an app refuses to install, or a download freezes at 1%, or something on your phone just feels a step behind where it should be, you'll already know exactly where to look and exactly what to tap, while everyone else is still wondering what's going on.